Good afternoon. It's Saturday, the 30th of May. I'm Erin Viner, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with an apology for being unable to bring you our broadcast yesterday. Unfortunately, due to transmission issues beyond our control, we were unable to broadcast our program. And now on to the news. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is commending the members of FIFA for helping to thwart the Palestinian bid to expel Israel from the International Soccer Federation. And he is hailing the efforts of Israel Football Association Chairman Ofer Eini for orchestrating the diplomatic effort in Zurich during the FIFA Congress. Speaking shortly after the Palestinian delegation dropped its motion to have Israel banned amid pressure from dozens of national delegations, Netanyahu said that Israel is interested in a peace that will ensure security for its citizens, but that cannot be achieved through coercion or distortion of the truth. He added that as long as the Palestinians continue to take unilateral steps against Israel, they will only push peace further away instead of bringing it closer. Palestinian Football Association President Jibril Rajoub made the announcement to drop the motion before the FIFA Congress in a dramatic statement.
I'm here to find a solution for a painful issue so close to the hearts of all defenders of football ethics and values, rather than to score goals even against those who are responsible for my football family is suffering. As I decided to drop the suspension. But it does not mean that I give up the resistance according to the statutes of FIFA.
The Congress then voted 165 to 18 in favor of the Palestinian amendment, essentially abandoning the effort to bar Israel, and instead establish a monitoring committee that will meet regularly to address the Palestinian complaints, particularly the free movement of players and officials between the West Bank and Gaza. IFA Chairman Eini spoke after Rajoub and said that politics should be left to the politicians, while we should play soccer the best that we can. He then went over to shake Rajoub's hand after approval of the resolution to drop the bid against Israel. The resolution of the dispute follows weeks of difficult negotiations that continued throughout the day yesterday until the last moment. Tension was heightened in the final hours as one protester burst into the hall where Blatter was delivering his opening remarks to the Congress. The activist waved a large red card and demanded an end to alleged Israeli racism before security agents expelled her from the hall. Later, someone else made a bomb threat against the site that was apparently a hoax. And meanwhile, out in the streets, security guards were able to prevent the attempts of other pro-Palestinian demonstrators to storm the building where the Congress was taking place. A number of policemen intervened when about 50 of the protesters began shoving and banging on doors at the entrance to the hall. The Hamas rulers of Gaza were quick to denounce the withdrawal of their rival Palestinian Authority delegation's withdrawal of the motion at the last minute, saying that it is typical behavior of a leadership that constantly caves in to the Israeli occupiers. Others in the West Bank and in Gaza also criticized the move, while Israelis here in Jerusalem voiced satisfaction.
The Palestinian BDS National Committee is disappointed that the entire FIFA Congress, including the Palestinian Football Association, have not lived up to their obligation and stated principles. FIFA and its membership have delayed the suspension of Israel, but they cannot delay the growth of the international boycott of Israel or prevent and the continued isolation of Israel.
What happened today was a betrayal by the Palestinian leadership for the demands of the Palestinian people and tens of thousands of people around the world who were asking for a suspension of Israel until it ended discrimination.
Jibril Rajoub has recognized that he must separate the sport from politics. You know, I am a Jerusalem citizen and I live in this area. And I never, and I and my family, my friends, never involved the politics in sports or in the neighborhood.
I think that all this idea, from the beginning, it's a big hypocrisy. I think if Iran is in FIFA, a member of FIFA, I think that first of all they have to take care of all the all the Iran neighbors and friends before they take care of Israel.
FIFA President Sepp Blatter expressed his relief at the conclusion of the Congress, where, in addition to the Israeli-Palestinian dispute, he also won a fifth term as president amid unprecedented corruption charges that erupted this week against officials at the Soccer Federation.
It was a very difficult Congress due to the circumstances of these events and these, I would say, also kind of tragic events, Wednesday and Thursday in Zurich, and all with the media in the world, what they said about FIFA, and now going to the Congress and then leading this Congress to the end with a lot of problems, and then the elections. So I am relaxed, I am happy, but I have to thank the national associations. 209 national associations were there, and during all the Congress, they observed what I have said at the very beginning: discipline, respect, and fair play. So much fair play that at the end, the two presidents from Palestine football and from Israel football, they shook hands. Who would have expected that 3 years ago? And they did it. So I say it was a very, very good Congress.
In other news, just a month away from the deadline to reach a nuclear deal, the top U.S. and Iranian diplomats have been gathering in Geneva, hoping to bridge differences over how quickly to ease economic sanctions on Tehran and how significantly the Iranians must open up military facilities to international inspections. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry and Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif are meeting today, and their talks are likely to extend into Sunday. Officials describe this negotiating round as the most substantive since the world powers and Iran clinched a framework pact in April. That agreement, however, left big questions unanswered, which weeks of subsequent technical discussions have done very little to resolve. The P5+1 nations believe that they have secured acquiescence from the hardline Islamic Republic to a combination of nuclear restrictions that would fulfill their highest goal of keeping Iran at least 1 year away from bomb-making capability for at least a decade. They are less clear, however, about how they'll ensure Iran fully adheres to the accord. Various Iranian officials, including the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, have publicly vowed to limit access or even block inspectors from sensitive military sites and the monitoring of nuclear scientists suspected of previous involvement in covert atomic weapons efforts. Washington has been insisting that such access must be guaranteed or there will be no final deal. A report yesterday by the UN Nuclear Agency declared that work has essentially stalled on its multi-year probe of Iran's past activities. Other unresolved issues in the talks include the pace at which the United States and other countries will provide Iran relief from international sanctions, as well as how to snap punitive measures back into place if the Iranians are caught cheating. Turning to efforts to resume peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians, and 6 high-level international diplomats will be visiting the country in the coming weeks. German Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier is slated to arrive tomorrow, followed later in the week by Canada's Rob Nicholson and New Zealand's Murray McCully. Polish Foreign Minister Grzegorz Schetyna is slated to come next weekend, and next month French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius will also come and bring his nation's own peace proposal. Cyprus President Nitsos Anastasiades is also expected to follow soon after. In addition, the Directors General of 4 Eastern European foreign ministries from the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Poland, and Hungary will also be in Israel this coming week. The visits reflect the serious ambition of the international community to revive the talks that stalled last year and also to take a greater role in the negotiations. Fabius was very clear about the purpose of his visit by announcing his intention to visit Israel, Egypt, the Palestinian territories to advance the French plan, which includes support of a draft United Nations resolution calling for the setting of an 18-month timetable to reach a final status agreement, while threatening French recognition of a Palestinian state should those negotiations fail. Ahead of the slated flurry of diplomatic activity, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that he welcomes the general idea behind the Arab Peace Initiative, but that the plan, proposed by Saudi Arabia back in 2002, has many problematic aspects to it, such as its call for an Israeli withdrawal from the Golan Heights and the return of Palestinian refugees to Israel. He also argued that the situation in the Middle East has changed since that proposal was first made 13 years ago, but said that he agrees with the central principle of attempting to also reach understandings with leading Arab countries in reference to the initiative's proposal that all Arab and Islamic states would establish normal diplomatic relations with Israel after a successful conclusion of the peace process with the Palestinians. The Israeli government has never fully endorsed the plan, although Netanyahu has repeatedly stated that given Iran's nuclear and regional aspirations, the moderate Arab states and Israel do have a common enemy and grounds for increased cooperation. The Prime Minister also sought to explain the disparity between his pre- and post-election statements regarding Palestinian statehood. He said that when asked in an interview during the campaign about the possibility of a Palestinian state being established on his watch, he replied that he did not think it would happen, adding that he still doesn't believe it will, but stressed that at no time did he rescind his agreement in principle to the creation of a Palestinian state as long as it is demilitarized and recognizes Israel as the Jewish homeland. President Reuven Rivlin has proposed his own roadmap to establish trust between Palestinians and Israelis, as well as between Israeli Jews and Arabs. During his remarks at the Givat Chaviva Center for a Shared Society, the president shared his conviction that if Israelis and Palestinians fail to acknowledge their basic and fundamental feeling of fear and intimidation of one another, such fears will never be overcome. He went on to say that, sadly, fear could overcome us, if only because it is more palpable than hope. In regional news, police in Cyprus say that they believe that the 26-year-old Lebanese man arrested earlier this week for manufacturing explosives may have been planning a series of attacks against Israeli targets on the island nation, including tourists and the embassy in Nicosia. Local newspapers have also been reporting that the suspect, who's also a resident of Canada, may be linked to the Iranian-backed Hezbollah terror group in his home nation. He was arrested on Wednesday after authorities discovered nearly 2 tons of fertilizer and ammonium nitrate used for making explosives in the basement of the Larnaca house where he was residing. Reports are circulating in Egyptian media that extreme terror groups in the Sinai affiliated with the Islamic State are planning to launch a mega-terror attack in Eilat. According to the reports, jihadists in the Sinai Peninsula have threatened to strike the port in the southern city in the coming days in coordination with the Islamic State's military wing operating inside of Gaza. Egyptian journalists quoted one ISIS leader as vowing that his group will first begin attacks against Hamas and then make their way to Israel's resort city. In the U.S. state of Arizona, about 500 protesters gathered outside of a Phoenix mosque where police kept 2 groups sparring over Islam far apart from each other. Yesterday's rally was initially organized by a city resident, John Ritzheimer, who is a former Marine who fought in the Iraq War and says that Islam is a violent religion. He led about 200 activists at the so-called freedom of speech rally, with many carrying pistols, assault rifles, American flags, and drawings of the Prophet Muhammad as they marched to the Islamic Community Center in the capital. That group was met by an equally sized group of counter-demonstrators who held posters promoting love and peace, who said that they came in a gesture of solidarity with the Muslim community. There were no reports of injuries or arrests during the incident, which lasted for several hours and drew worldwide attention on social media. The event comes just about a month after a shootout outside a Prophet Muhammad cartoon drawing contest in a Dallas suburb when 2 Phoenix men showed up with assault rifles and were killed by police. Both of those suspects were worshipers at the same mosque where yesterday's protest was called. Violent extremism was also the topic of a special session convened by the United Nations Security Council yesterday as members met with Interpol agents to discuss ways of working together to combat militant groups around the world.
The 1267 Al-Qaeda Sanctions Monitoring Team estimates that more than 25,000 FTFs from over 100 member states have traveled to Syria and Iraq as well as Afghanistan, Yemen, and Libya. No country can tackle this challenge alone. Member states have to enhance their cooperation and exchange information, and develop effective border controls, and strengthen their criminal justice systems in accordance with the rule of law and human rights standards. Full compliance with international law is central to success.
This new challenge requires a new response, and our response must include stemming the flow of foreign terrorist fighters and their facilitators, and identifying and helping those who are disillusioned before they succumb to violent extremism ideologies.
Here at home, commuters are breathing a sigh of relief since the strike called by railway workers set to start tomorrow was canceled. Yesterday, the employees withdrew their threat to launch sanctions that were sparked by an internal dispute with management. Following a hearing at the labor court in Tel Aviv, representatives from railways management and the unions agreed to conduct serious negotiations over the next 2 weeks under the supervision of the court's president, Judge Efrat Laxer. The strike was originally called by disgruntled workers who are complaining that unilateral steps are being taken against them by management they accuse of repeatedly violating previous agreements. In other labor matters, the 2-day wildcat strike at the Haifa and Ashdod ports has ended. This after the workers' unions agreed to conclude their sanctions after Minister of Transportation Israel Katz threatened to declare a state of emergency and press criminal charges against the 2,400 employees who walked off the job on Wednesday and ignored court orders to return to work. About 40 ships were left waiting to be unloaded during the strike that not only created a great deal of pressure, but is also estimated to have cost the economy millions of shekels a day. The workers launched the protest action in opposition to plans to open 2 new privately owned ports that they say will threaten their own livelihoods. And the ongoing labor dispute at Israel Chemicals has also been resolved. Following 4 months of sanctions, company management and the union finally signed a deal and agreed to institute an efficiency program that ensures fewer forced layoffs than originally declared. Now, 38 employees will be fired within the next 6 months, with a compensation plan that has been expanded by 300%, and 210 employees will take early retirement. Management also committed to not laying off any additional employees for 3 years. More than 2,000 personnel are now set to return to their positions at the company's Dead Sea bromine unit and the potash plant. Histrodute Labor Federation head Avi Nissenkorn hailed the agreement for restoring hope to the entire southern region, and he pledged to continue the fight on behalf of residents' rights. Israel Chemicals holds the exclusive permits to extract minerals from the Dead Sea and is the world's 6th largest producer of potash. Well, for the first time in 70 years, festive Jewish prayers were held in one of modern Jerusalem's oldest synagogues this week at the long-hidden and inaccessible Hechal Shlomo House of Worship in the Yemenite village of Shiloach, just south of the old city walls. Dozens of people took part in the joyous celebration, which marked the rededication of the synagogue. Minister of Agriculture Uzi Ariel of Beit Yehudi took part in the ceremony, affixing the mezuzah to the doorpost as he recited the traditional blessings. The synagogue has been renamed Ohel Yonatan in tribute to Jonathan Pollard, who is now in his 30th year of a life sentence in an American prison for spying on behalf of Israel. Daniel Luria of the Ateret Kohanim Association, which oversaw the return to the synagogue, explained the history and the importance of the site.
Very exciting time. The Beit Knesset, the original Beit Knesset of the Yemenites, has slightly been restored, and this was the first Yemenite tefillah, the first Yemenite prayer in the old Yemenite village, where the Jews were kicked out of in August of 1938. It was something phenomenal. We found behind walls the original areas where the Aron Kodesh was in the Beit Knesset itself. To think that after 77 years, after the Jews were thrown out of here, we managed to come back exactly to the place where the Yemenite teachers were in the Beit Knesset itself. There are pictures actually to show how the boys were sitting here and learning. This was a tefillah, this was a Beit Medrash. It was a thriving and flourishing Beit Knesset from 1882 all the way till 1938. The Beit Knesset itself was established in 1885. But as a result of the pogroms, and the British were not interested in looking after any of the Jews that were here, they took out the Jews and even promised that the Jewish refugees will be able to return. This Beit Knesset, the British promised to look after the Sifrei Torah, the Chumashim, the Sidurim. 1 year later, Shlomo Ze'evi, Rechavam Ze'evi's father, comes back here and sees destroyed Torah scrolls, burnt, turned into a toilet, absolute desecration of anything holy. Here we are 77 years later with Yemenite children, with Yemenite boys and girls and men who actually davened here this morning and singing songs. This is revival of the Jewish life, not just in Yerushalayim, but in the heart of the old Yemenite village, Kfar HaTemanim, Bashiloach.
Turning to sports, and the 22nd annual women's triathlon took place in Herzliya this morning. An unprecedented number of nearly 1,400 athletes from Israel and abroad participated in the contest that included swimming, running, and biking. Under the banner of Every Woman is a Winner, the race is held in memory of Tamar Dvorskin, who was a 21-year-old triathlete who was killed in a hit-and-run accident while bicycle training for a competition 19 years ago. Those competing in the event included sports enthusiasts as well as 2 to 3 member teams who engaged in what the organizers describe as a festival of challenge, friendship, and achievement. The youngest winner was 8 years old, and the most senior is just about to turn 80 years young. And the 6th annual Swim for Sadna fundraising event will take place this coming Friday, June 5th, when between 200 and 300 women will swim the 3.5K or 1.5K routes in the Sea of Galilee, splashing off from different beaches and joining up at the same spot. The event isn't a race, but a personal challenge that empowers each participant in their efforts to raise enough money to buy a new vocational kitchen at the Sadnat Shiluv Be'emunah nonprofit school in Gush Etzion, where emotionally and physically challenged teens can learn how to prepare meals for themselves. Anyone who would like to donate to the cause can also do so on the group's website at www.swimforsadna.org.il. The IBA weather team says that we can expect a beautiful day tomorrow with mostly clear skies and a slight rise in temperatures. Here's the forecast at home and abroad over the next 24 hours. Thank you for being with us this afternoon. Laura Cornfield will be here tomorrow to bring you the latest breaking news from Israel. I'm Erin Viner, wishing you a great week, and shalom from Jerusalem.